I mean, the profit margins in our industry are ridiculously low. We talk a lot in the industry about collaboration. Like, what does collaboration actually mean? I think sometimes there is mistrust between like people who are buying products and people who are selling products.
Hello, and welcome to Metpro Insights, a show dedicated to the construction industry. It's our first show of the new year, and it already looks set to be another very interesting 12 months. And our aim with this podcast, as always, is to bring the latest information and insights from a variety of industry professionals. And very, very much kicking us off in style this year, we're delighted to welcome Maria Coulter, aka the construction coach, to the show. Maria, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for inviting me. It's good to be here.
Thank you. So, as you know, we're going to be talking about, we'll touch on the industry as a whole, but we're going to put quite a bit of focus on the SME contractors. But before we get into the questions, I think it'd be good for everybody to know a bit more about you. So if you could just give us a bit of an overview on who you are and what you do.
Okay. So I started in the construction industry when I was 16. So I did a BTEC in build studies like way back then. I originally thought that I wanted to be a joiner or something like that, as you do. But I made the decision to do building studies, and then I did some work experience when they were building the Nissan car factory in Sunderland, and fell in love with construction and also worked in the quantity surveying department. So I decided that I wanted to be a quantity surveyor, and that's what I did. So I became quantity surveyor, I got chartered, and then I became a project manager and a risk manager as well. And then around about the time of the last recession, 2008, I was working as a project manager. I was working on some big projects, which I absolutely loved, but I think I really realised more than ever how tough the industry is, especially in times of recession, and the fact that in the past we've got these sort of boom and bust cycles that we tend to work through. And, when things are bad, there's a lot of pressure on subcontractors, on smaller businesses. It's all about money, driving the costs down. There's a lot of fear. And I just saw all of that being played out. And I felt like I had to be somebody that I wasn't as well. I felt like there was a lot of pressure on me as a project manager. And I actually had coaching myself just to try and sort of work through that a bit. And then that process made such a big difference, really tapping into who I am and what my values are and what's important to me, that actually led me to become a coach. So I independently trained to become a coach because I thought, we've got to do things a bit better than this. We've got to do business better. And I guess that value, discovering my number one value is fairness. Okay. Like, that's the sort of backbone behind what I do now as a coach.
Lovely. Okay, well, thanks for that. And to be honest, some of the stuff that you've said there is a perfect segue into the first question as part of this discussion. So if it's okay with you, we'll just dive straight in. So
absolutely,
going into this year, there was the industry was forecast to have an output drop of about 3.9%, which is what we heard from the Construction Products Association. And then we've also seen recently that between January to November of last year, 4,076 construction firms went out of business. So undoubtedly, we're looking at another challenging year. But what's from your perspective as a coach, what's your take on that, and how do you see the year generally playing out?
So I think they are definitely going to be challenging times. I mean, I was talking to a QS the other day. So he's got a business working with SMEs and micro businesses in like the commercial sector. And he was saying that, things are slowing down a bit. But I am a great believer, I just think mindset is so important, and looking at what you can control from a business point of view. And, that's what I'm really encouraging people to do at the moment, because it's about, looking at your business, and where you want to go, and building that mindset and that resilience to actually get you through, because that's what's going to make the difference.
Okay. Well, focus, because you tend to you focus on SME contractors more so.
Yeah.
So this year, what do you see as their key pain points or challenges getting to market?
I mean, I know a lot of them are struggling with the cost side of things, with
Mm.
risk. So, the fact that material prices have been rising, we've got inflation. I mean, I do think inflation is starting to come down and will come down more. But there is a lot of risk, and also it's about the contracts that they're getting themselves into as well, because contractors do tend to try and pass the risk down to the SMEs and the micro businesses and the supply network, and I think they do have to be mindful of that and look at how they can mitigate their risk, protect themselves more, and also like push back as
Okay.
well.
Okay. I mean, before we started actually recording, I'm going to catch you a little bit off guard here, so my apologies. But you mentioned, you used this term broken model. What did you mean by that? Because that seems to tie into what you're talking about there.
So we do have this kind of model, this pattern of how things have gone and developed. So you've got the clients have got a certain budget. Quite often their budget isn't realistic. So they're starting off the back foot already. I've certainly worked for clients in the past where it's like, well, this is how much we're going to pay. You've got to deliver it for that. So, you starting from that perspective. And then we've got contractors who, I mean, the profit margins in our industry are ridiculously
Mm.
low. So, you look at like the top 10 or the top 100. I mean, I remember reading something was either Construction News or Building Magazine a while ago. And I think the average, and this is probably going back a few years, but the average profit margin was actually in the negative when you added it all
Right.
together. And it's like, okay, there's something not right here. Um, and when you look at other industries and what other industries are doing and the type of profit margins that they're making, like it's just all a bit crazy. And then because contractors are then under pressure to really protect their profit margins, then obviously they're sort of pushing risk down into the supply network, and then the conversations start like, oh, can you just find 30 grand in your tender? And some subcontractors are getting savvy and they're really getting to grips with the cost, and they're really getting to grips with their numbers, and they're crunching the numbers and saying, no, we can't, because that's like 30% of our profit
Yeah.
margin. Like, how can we grow our business? How can we grow a sustainable business if you're just telling us to shave off 30
Mm.
grand? But it's the fact that those questions are being asked in the first place that is part of it. And then also, there's hundreds of thousands of micro businesses and SMEs in the industry. They make up the bulk of the industry, and they need to look at their business and how they're growing, and quite often they've got labor only people working for them, and that's not necessarily being set up in the right way, and they're at risk. So I just think there's a lot of areas that we need to focus on as an industry to find a better way, and there are better ways of doing things.
Okay. How do you see manufacturers and electrical wholesalers helping in that respect?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that market probably detailed enough. I know one of the challenges is that people aren't holding
Right.
prices. So I guess my question to you is, like, are they holding their price? How long are they holding their price for? Um, would be a question that I would put back to you.
Okay. I mean, for I work in marketing, so I just spend
Yeah,
money. but
yeah,
my understanding is that the one word I've heard over and over again, seriously since the pandemic started, is volatile and volatility. It's been up
yeah,
and down, but mainly up. And holding prices has it's always been a challenge. Um, and I think that's only going to continue to be a challenge personally. So, in all honesty, I actually can't answer that, but I will absolutely find out. And as an addition to this conversation, I'll certainly put something out in answer to that question from people who are much more intelligent than me. So,
yeah. Because I think, and also I think it is about sort of building relationships as
yeah,
well, isn't it? And it's about kind of going back to the what can you control and what can't you control. Now, if people can't hold their prices, then I think um, you know, the subcontractors, they need to look at the contracting model that they're getting into as well. And, how are fluctuations being dealt with? How much risk are they being asked to take on board? And how can they push that back to um, to their clients, basically? Um, so I think there's things that they can do to sort of to take back a level of control rather than just accepting how things are. But I think it is about having those conversations and building relationships with suppliers. I think is so important because it's understanding where that person is coming from and where the supply chain is coming from as well, and what can be done and what can't be done. Um, but also, if also a subcontractor can see it from a manufacturer's perspective and vice versa, then you might be able to find a different way forward. And also, I do think that quite often subcontractors and businesses are too reactive when it comes to
yeah,
suppliers. So they are like just flying by the seat of their pants sometimes, and they're not planning enough in advance. So they're not saying, oh, okay, so in a couple of months' time, this is what I'm going to need. Like these are the key milestones. And I know a lot of businesses that I've worked with are guilty of that. So they're literally just running around trying to get the right materials. So I guess the question is, in this volatile market, like what's the best possible outcome?
mm,
And how could they potentially sort of find that by working together? Um, would be something that I would suggest.
yeah. I mean, I could not agree more. I mean, I haven't been in the industry as long. I've been in nearly 7 years now. Um, and one thing that I've noticed from the very beginning is that everybody's very secretive. Nobody really wants to talk, um, which I find quite bizarre because of how integral we are and how vital we are to each other. Um, and so I'm. This is partly, in fact, this is the key driver behind this very podcast, and what's led to this discussion is that certainly at Metpro we're trying to break down some barriers. Obviously, we're not going to give you all of our secrets. We'd be mad to do that. But to open the conversation and understand how we, as an industry, can work better together, rather than just, but we're a manufacturer and this is how we can work. Because we're just putting limitations, I believe, on ourselves at every level of the supply chain. Would you agree that people just don't talk enough?
Oh yeah, totally. And and I think it's about looking at the bigger picture. It's about looking at the
Yeah.
outcomes, isn't it? And we talk a lot in the industry about collaboration. Like, what does collaboration actually mean? I mean, really, it means like two people are coming together, and it's about having a common
Mm.
outcome. So, suppliers want to, and manufacturers want to get their products into into buildings, and builders want to build them. So they've got the same outcome right from the very beginning. So then it makes sense to think about, okay, so how can we actually make that happen, and what are the right conditions
Absolutely.
to make that happen as well?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, no, look, it's obviously we obviously need to talk more, and I think that's a key point that we've addressed, and it's quite nice to vocalize it out of the confines of the Metpro building. So, and to be fair, we're seeing a lot more discussion taking place, which was quite heavily driven through the pandemic because it needed to be. So, for example, the EDA have held a number of webinars and continue to do so to keep people in the loop on what's going on within the industry and the certain subsectors, and that's been incredibly important and so helpful.
Do you know what I think would be really useful? And that is the whole communication. I think sometimes there is mistrust between like people who are buying products and people who are selling
That's interesting.
products because yeah, because I just think that there is a bit of a perception that some people think that suppliers are potentially jumping on the bandwagon of price increases. And it's like, what is actually driving those price increases? Where are those price increases coming from? Like, people always want to understand why something's happening.
Yeah.
And if they can understand why something's happening, then they can accept it more. Like, it's the same with any culture, in any business, in any organization, in any industry. People understand why something's happening. They can start to get on board with that. So I think if buyers can understand why the market is volatile, why things are happening, why prices are going up, why prices can't be held, I think that would make a difference, because then it's about building trust that your suppliers got your best interests at heart, and they're not just jumping on the bandwagon to make more money in this sort of environment that we're in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I've never considered that, only because, and I'm going to sound so biased, so please forgive me, but we've always been of the opinion at Metpro that we tell people, even something as small, say as small, but your product's going to be late by a day. We don't wait for the customer not to receive it and then tell us they haven't received it. We're straight onto the phone to inform them, and it's no different with price increases and when we were experiencing those colossal challenges within freight, and there was no containers, then there was too many, and you've got COVID going on in China now. We're always trying to keep people informed, but I've no doubt that there's better ways of getting that information out to people, and we're always looking for new ways to do it. So that's something that we'll go and discuss and see how we can get those messages out to try and help people feel more or as comfortable as possible with what we're sharing, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, like that sort of looking ahead, that market look ahead, like, where do you see things going in the next few months? Because if you think about it, people, and part of the challenge that we've got now, and this is all linked with the model, like people are making decisions and pricing stuff that might not be finished for another couple of years.
Yeah.
So they're having to price stuff. And this is where there is that risk and that danger of being tied into fixed prices. And that's why people are saying, don't get into a fixed price right now, because it's madness, because we don't know what's going to be happening, because we don't know where we're going to be in 2 years' time.
No.
So it's really hard to fix a price. And I'm seeing people experiencing that now. So they fixed a price 2 years ago with their clients. They're building a house, which is taken as long as it takes, and then they're actually dealing with like the current sort of materials prices, all the rises and everything, and the volatility in the market, but they haven't got any contractual mechanism to get any of that back from their clients right now. So I think whatever information that you can give to help people plan ahead and look ahead, I think is really important. You know, those like market insights, what's impacting on the market, where do you think it is going to be going in the next few months from a supply potential, you know, I think is just really, really useful for people right now.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll absolutely do whatever we can. Like I say, we're always trying, but we're always on the hunt for how we can improve ourselves in every facet of what we do. And you know, these insights or thought leadership, whatever moniker you want to give them, are incredibly important. They always have been, but they seem to be even more so now. And I've personally seen a big shift in the past 12 months, really, with people being very open to having some conversations like this, and they're actively asking for the information and are genuinely, sincerely appreciative of having a deeper understanding of exactly what's going on. Because that is, I mean, certainly the way we take it is that's our job. You know, we're at this level. We need to inform you as to what's going on. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, and I think that is the whole, you know, what's happening is really starting to emphasize that importance of building relationships and communication, because in the past, when things are good and when you're kind of in the boom period, it's like, well, we might give you our business, we might
Yeah,
not. You know, they've got that sort of power ego trip going on, like, we've got the power now, like, we're in control, we might give you some business, we might not. And, you know, the situation that we're in now, it definitely it reverses that. But I think it's important not to retreat to like typical behaviors that we've done in the
yes,
past, and to do what we can to collaborate and support each other, and not let the power go to our heads, basically, like whoever has the power at that
yeah.
time.
Okay. Well, you seem to have nicely segued us into the next section. You know, I think you found your calling with this. But we've talked about, you know, okay, that the market looks like there's going to be a slight dip. Um, there's obviously challenges. It wouldn't be, you know, it wouldn't be what it is without them. But what about opportunities? Because you've mentioned mindset quite a few times. You're working with you know, with SME contractors that make, as you say, make up the largest portion of the industry. What do you see as being the biggest opportunities for SME contractors in 2023?
I think they've got to get really clear on like what they're doing and why they're doing
Okay.
it. Like, you know, I've literally just been doing a coaching session with somebody who, you know, has had a really challenging time. And what I did in that session was got them to reconnect with why they're doing what they're doing and what their purpose is, and getting them to think about that elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Because, and I think it's about understanding, you know, why you do what you do. And I think because a lot of SMEs and micro businesses, like, there is that person, that founder of that business who did it for a reason, and they might have forgotten why they started that in the first place. Like, you just get bogged down by growing, running a business, being all over the place, trying to wear lots of different hats, like not getting a second to think about sort of where you're heading
Mm.
and why you're heading in that direction. And I just think taking a step back and having a clear picture in your mind of, right, this is where I want to be in 12 months' time. This is what I want to achieve. And this is why.
Yeah.
This is why I want to do it. And, you know, reconnecting with their business, and really working on their brand, you know, like the purpose of their brand, like, you know, why should somebody buy from you? Like, you know, in when the market gets tougher and people do potentially start retreating back to their old behaviors, you've got to give them something to connect with
Mm.
and to make a decision by. And also, I think really getting up to speed with what the market wants right now and what your clients want is super important. So if you think about what's around at the moment, you know, we've got the construction playbook,
Mm.
for example, which, you know, sets a model of what, you know, the government are looking for in their supply chain. You know, you've got centrally procured projects, that are being funded. You've got the whole sort of change in perspective about procuring for value and not just about the lowest price, about sustainability and the very real targets that we've got for net zero, and how we were going to achieve that. But how are you going to help your clients achieve that? So if you know what your clients want, what's important to them, then you think about, so how can I actually deliver that? How can I set my business up to deliver that? What do I need to learn? What do I need to know? Like, what knowledge do I need to have? How can I do that? That's what's going to set you apart from your competition. It's that, like, well, you buy from us because we're quality. We care about what we do. We care about quality. We care about health and safety. We care about our people. We care about customer experience. We want to give value. Like, you buy from us and we'll support you in achieving your goals as well. You know?
I could not agree more with what you've just said, and that why is so often forgotten, and I see that even in myself, and I'm going personally through a similar process of head out of the weeds, because it's so easy to get lost in tasks that when you come out and reflect on them and look and consider them properly, how much value do they actually add? What I've found is, unless you're focusing on the right things, not a lot. You're busying yourself with things to be busy. But yeah, that why question. I mean, there's a good a good book by a guy called Simon Sinek called Start With Why. I'm sure, have you read it as well? Yeah, and I would encourage anybody to go and read that, and it just gives you some real perspective. And everything's fast nowadays, isn't it? I mean, you got the dawn of 5G, and everybody gets annoyed when a web page doesn't load after 0.6 of a second. And sometimes that, more often than not, even taking that time to pause and reflect on what's actually important, and taking the time to understand that, like you say, the needs of the customer, is just paramount. So yeah.
It's the most important thing you could do. Like, if doing some analysis and giving yourself time to work on your business is the most important thing. And also, if people have got, like, is it 18 minutes or 19 minutes that a TED Talk takes, like, definitely put a link into the Simon Sinek TED Talk. Because, the whole concept is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And when people are buying, it's that emotional connection. Like, and if you're not giving them an emotional connection, then they don't have anything else to make a decision on other than, well, they're the cheapest.
Yes.
And I think, investing in your brand, investing in your business, tapping into your purpose. I remember doing some research. I did a guest lecture for a university, and it was about, like, growth and all of that. And I remember, like, researching and doing loads of research and looking on people's websites and thought, bloody hell, these are really boring. Like, if you look at people's websites, and that's meant to be their shop window.
Yeah.
It's like, we are a global consultancy, we build X, Y, and Z, we are great. And it's like, oh God, I'm asleep.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't compel me at all.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I get it. Speaking from the marketing point of view, brand is so so vital, and it's I don't think, your opinions on Jeff Bezos aside, there's never been a better way of putting it, and it's what people say when you're out of the room, and it's so true. I mean, if you're looking at buying a t-shirt and it's Nike versus Adidas, which one are you going to pick? But then why? Again, comes back to that question of why are you doing this?
Yeah, and also I think the other thing is like, I'm doing a group coaching program at the minute with some SMEs and micro businesses, and we've been looking at mindset, and I've got them to think about the one thing, so the concept of the one thing. So, like, if they think about where they want to be in 12 months' time, what is the one thing that they want to do? What is the one thing that is going to make the biggest impact? And start to focus on that, because I think you can just get so much overwhelm when you're running a business and think, well, where do I go first? And then you just end up in the weeds, fighting fires all the
Mm.
time. And that's your constant mode, and you're not really working towards that goal and that bigger picture. So if you fast forward 12 months time and think, what is the one thing that I want to do, and sort of work backwards,
Yes.
so that you're actually thinking, okay, so if I work backwards in 6 months time, what does that look like in 3 months time, in 1 month's time, in a week's
Hmm.
time? And then you start to connect more with that goal, because you're bringing it into the now. So I think there is a great book I'd recommend as well called The One Thing,
Okay.
and the author talks about goal setting in the now, and that's about taking a goal that is 12 months down the line and working backwards to bring it into now, and thinking, right, what can I do this week, what can I do today that's going to start to get me closer to that. But another question that we've been looking at is, who do I need to be to get there? Like, as a person,
Mm.
as a business owner, who do I need to be? As a business, who do I need to be? And we've talked about the importance of like setting standards in your business as well. So like that business 12 months down the line, what standards do they have? And how can you start to build up to those standards? How can you start to bring that in incrementally? So rather than like jumping up a set staircase, to number 10, like how do you just get to the next level, breaking that
Mm.
down? So, I just say that in the environment that we're in, with what we're going to be facing in the next 12 months, which a lot of it is uncertain, do whatever you can to take control of your situation, is what I would say.
Fabulous. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Okay. Well, I think I've got I've got a couple more questions, but the one to kind of wrap up this this initial discussion is, what one key change could we make as an industry for the benefit of everybody involved? No pressure.
I think it's something that we need to look at collectively. I think it is looking at the model of the industry, and doing things differently from a contract, from a risk perspective. I think clients, have to play their part and set realistic expectations for what they can achieve. Contractors need to look inwardly, and they need to look at what their drivers are, and how they're buying
Okay.
as well. But also I think they need to look at, I think a lot of the challenge that we've got as well is a lot of people don't, like a lot of contractors, for example, people working in their business have got no idea what it's like to run a
Mm.
business, and they don't understand it. So that they're asking things that have a massive impact on a business, and they don't understand what that impact is. So like they're asking for stuff that really they shouldn't be asking for, but they feel under pressure to ask those questions because they're being driven commercially. So they're obviously driving other people commercially, but they don't understand the consequences and the impact of what they're asking because they've never run a business before, and they're not in that mindset. So I think trying to see things from other people's perspectives is really important. And I think taking back control of of what you can. So I know it's not just one thing, but I think it is that understanding.
Yeah.
It's that understanding of different people's perspectives, um, and having the confidence and the courage to push back and say no. But you need to do the work to be able to push back. Like you need to know your numbers, you need to know your why, you need to know why you're pushing back. You've got to do that work as a business owner. That is super important.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Great answer. Okay. Um, well, this last question is more about something that, in fact, it's how we got to talking initially, which is this the initiative, the innovation-driven procurement initiative, which has been set up
Yeah.
by yourself. I think it'd be good for people just to understand what this is and what the what the drivers were behind it, why you've decided to introduce this.
Okay. So this project actually came about. It was Nottingham Trent University and Morgan Sindall who bid for some funding from the CITB a few years ago. And I think Morgan Sindall and I think the university, they'd done some research, and I think they were just understanding the supply chain and, you know, starting to look at collaboration, that importance, and also like really wanting to involve the supply chain and the supply network and business owners in innovation and how things could be done differently. You know, that could really add to the process, because we talk a lot in the industry about collaboration, we talk a lot about innovation, but I think a lot of the SMEs and the micro businesses are being left
Yeah.
behind because they need that support to actually be able to do it, you know. Um, so what they wanted to do with this project was get some funding and then create an environment for people to actually do it. So what they did was they got the funding and they started delivering training on site, first of all, around collaborative behaviours, collaborative design, collaborative risk, and also like innovation and value. So they wanted to get people to really start to think about, okay, so how do we work together? How do we support each other? How do we start to understand people more and their behaviours? And also, what can I do as a business to do things differently? Like, what are my challenges? Like, where are things going wrong? Like, giving them that space to think, okay, I could do something different here. So that was all kind of happening on site. But then we had the pandemic.
Yep.
And that all kind of, you know, came to a standstill. And now it's all coming back. But what's happening now is it's all being opened up online. And that's where I came in. So I'm now a delivery partner for the Innovation Driven Procurement Project. And it is about finding SME and micro business owners who, first of all, to help them identify what is frustrating them in their business right now. So we do like an innovation workshop to say, right, what's frustrating you? You know, not what's not going very well on site at the moment. Just really getting them to answer these questions and think, okay, so where do you need to focus on in your business? And this could be around performance improvement. It could be around opportunities, so winning more work. It could be around resources. You know, it's just getting to get people to think about their business and what they can do differently that's going to impact on profitability, it's going to impact on performance, it's going to impact on efficiency. Like all of the things that we're asking them to do, it's actually giving them support to actually do it. So, you know, at the moment, we're looking for 40 innovation champions. So 40 business owners, and it's all fully funded. We're getting up to 20 now, so we still have spaces available. And, you know, we're doing projects around improving efficiency, managing performance. So I did a session with a business yesterday who actually directly employs people. They're really struggling with performance management. So we're going to be getting a mentor in to work with them to sort of put like a process in place to help them improve performance in their business. We're looking for businesses who might want to put a sustainability strategy in place, which obviously links with, you know, the sustainability requirements that their contractors, like their sort of clients might have. We're looking for people who might want to improve health and safety, for example. We're looking for people who might want to improve equality, diversity and inclusion in their business as well. We're looking for people who might want to get on more frameworks so they could get support in how do they, you know, get the structure in place to be able to successfully apply for bids and get on frameworks. So there's quite a lot of different areas, and a lot of it is linked with things like the construction playbook. But it's getting people to think about how they can improve their business, and that will improve their results, but giving them the support. So they get to work with me, they get to work with a mentor, but also there's an online community that they can get involved with, and there's free training available. So the courses that were being given face to face by the university are now being delivered online, and it's going to be launched in an app on the 1st of February.
Brilliant.
So there's free training that's available to get people to start thinking about what collaboration actually means and how they can start to bring that into their business and their work on site. So, and we're going to leave a legacy because it's all online. Like all of the innovations that we're doing, like we're going to be leaving a legacy for people to be able to have resources to tap into, to learn from what other people have done. And we're also going to be doing some masterclasses as well. So we've got a series of masterclasses that are coming up with some of the mentors. So it's a really exciting project, and it's a great opportunity for us to kind of like come up with some solutions for the key challenges that lots and lots of businesses have, but they might not necessarily know because they're working in silos. So I'm really excited to be delivering this, and I would encourage anybody listening to this podcast, if you're in the supply network, if you're SME micro business owner, get involved, basically.
Brilliant. I mean, it's obviously we've gotten involved, and I can attest 100% that I went into my first conversation with you almost like a deer in headlights. I don't know, but then you teased some information out, and now we've landed on an innovation project, which is absolutely essential to our business, and our managing director is absolutely on board with it as well. So it's definitely something to consider, and it's almost, in fact, it is from my perspective anyway. This program is the embodiment or trying to address all of the things that you were talking about earlier on, focusing on the right things. So yeah, it's brilliant. And we'll put a link to this along with the video and the audio when it goes out. But yeah, Maria, I really, really am grateful for you coming on and talking to me. I hope there's some great information in there, some great insights for people at every level of the supply chain to take something away from and start to ask themselves why. Maybe maybe start to think about things a little differently. Where can people find you, Maria? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm constructioncoach.co.uk. So yeah, come and have a look. I mean, I've got a podcast as well called The Construction Revolution.
Yep.
Which brings in different ideas and perspectives as well. So if people want to start to think a bit differently, there's one on purpose, for example, that people might find useful to listen to, and one on standards as well. So, there's a few different ones in there. So yeah, and just drop me a message, connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'd love to have some conversations.
Lovely. Okay. Well, we'll put all the links below, plus the links to those couple of books and the TED Talk that we mentioned as well. Maria, been an absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks a lot for asking me, and I think it's great what you're doing. It's really different, and I think it's really important to share information, to open up and have conversations and things like that. So well done for what you're doing as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, hopefully we'll start to open up some even more conversations at even higher levels. We'll see. That's the plan anyway. Yeah, we'll see where we go. We'll set a 12-month target and then go from there.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome.
Lovely. Maria, thank you very much. And thanks again for coming on.